Okay.
Good morning.
Nice. Maybe we could go around and do some quick introductions, and then we can get right into it. I can start. My name is Graham. I'm a platform specialist at TestStim. I've been here for about 2 years.
Sudhriti?
Yes, hello. So this is Sudhriti Mondal. I'm a sales engineer at TestStim. I manage the technical sales.
I'm Byron Summerdahl. I'm the CTO of Ackland Avenue and Hero Unit, and currently the acting guild master for the Quality Guild in Ackland Avenue.
Hey guys, I'm Aníbal. Sorry, jumping the gun there. Hey, I'm Aníbal. I'm a QA analyst for Ackland Avenue for a little over 2 months now, and excited to be here.
Well, my name is Teddy, and I've been a tester for Ackland as well, a manual tester for Ackland as well since December last year, so about 8 or 9 months now.
Hey, I'm Fernando. I'm in silent quality in Ackland, and I'm working in Ackland since October 2017, almost 2 years.
Everyone, my name is Ana Casasola. I've been here in Ackland 3 weeks ago, so I'm the new girl as a QA manual tester. It's a pleasure.
I could almost not hear you. Maybe your microphone's just really quiet.
Hear me now?
Yeah, sort of. It's getting a little better. We'll be able to hear you later. Maybe just next time you talk, just hold the mic up to your mouth.
Hello, yes?
Yeah, that's much better.
Is it better?
Yeah.
I rewind again?
Did everybody hear before?
Yep.
Diana? Okay, yeah. I just had to strain, All right, who's next?
Very much.
Okay, my name is Carlos Velasquez, and I've been a tester with Ackland for 2 weeks now.
Don't be shy.
Hello everyone, I'm Carlin Bustillo. I'm here in Ackland about 2 years ago, and I'm assigned to quality assurance as well.
Did we get everybody?
Probably not, but we know everybody else on this side.
Okay.
And
Right.
there may be a couple of other stragglers that join after the fact. But go ahead and get us rolling.
Okay. All right. Well, the goal today is to introduce you to TestStim and hopefully lead to a little bit more give you a little bit more time back in your day and get you a little bit more productive and automate some of your tests. Sudhriti is going to kind of lead the session today, so I'll hand it over to him. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt us and jump in, okay?
Hello, everyone. So what I've done is I have a small presentation kind of to cover all of the capabilities of TestStim, and then I will go ahead and kind of do some exercises with all of you. So we'll have some hands-on. I'm assuming that you have already had a invitation from TestStim to log in and you have set up. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and have that set up right now after my presentation. So driving test automation the TestStim way. I'll cover TestStim overview, a quick one, and then the best practices around test automation and TestStim. And then I have a couple of exercises, couple of labs that we will walk through together, and then we can do a Q&A. So what is TestStim? So TestStim is a test automation framework and platform that allows you to automate your GUI functional tests. Tests are actually executed automatic fashion and validated against expected result without any touch. So you can run repetitive tests without any manual intervention. You can author and execute tests using a web-based authoring tool. Testim uses dynamic locators that helps you reduce test maintenance by self-healing whenever you make a small change to your website, maybe class IDs or CSS selectors and things like that. Testim can automatically locate the element and run with the test without any failures. I'll cover on that a little more afterwards. You can integrate Testim test with any type of a continuous integration like Jenkins or other tools. Testim provides extensive reporting at the higher level, at the company level, as well as at the project level, and I'll walk you through that. And Testim reduces the time to test because you no longer have to manually execute it, review it. It can do it based on schedule, based on events, like when you check in your code. It helps you improve cost, reduces, improve quality, reduces cost, as well as time to market. So what are some of the benefits of Testim? And some of the benefits are very generic to any kind of test automation solution. With any test automation solution, including Testim, what you get is the automated safety net. Basically, you have reusable, repeatable, automated smoke and regression testing. And whenever test fails, it provides fast feedback through notification emails back to developers and testers so that they can quickly act upon it. Faster time to market, it saves you time, quicker release cycles. And then you can have wider test coverage. Typically, when you do manual testing, you probably have maybe a subset of data that you want to test with. With automated test, now you can have test data imported, and you can run the test against all of the data that you need. It helps you improve test coverage because now you can run more tests. You don't need the manual effort to go and do that. You can focus manual effort on exploratory tests or kicking off a test runs and things like that, or creating an automated test. And then it's less error prone and integrates with continuous testing. Overall, it improves your quality. So what are some of the features? I'll quickly kind of go through the features, and if you are not able to catch it, will definitely ask me questions afterwards. I can also show these features and functions in the product. So Testim is a SaaS-based solution, meaning that no software installation is needed. All you need to do is install the Chrome plugin that creates this icon on the Chrome browser. So Testim uses Chrome browser for authoring the test, but then you can run it across other browsers as well. So with the Chrome plugin, you can do multiple different things: capture screenshot, capture video, create automated test, open Testim. And then you can also do editing in the Chrome browser. That's our test editor. It's a web-based editor that allows you to record and create tests, as well as augment those tests that you create using additional actions, validations, synchronizations that you can put into your test. So Testim supports assertions and validations. Why do you need assertions and validations? Whenever you create an automated test, you need to make sure that your test is successful. Typically, when you run the test using manually, you can see it on the screen and you know the test was successful or not. But when you're running in an automated fashion in a remote grid, then you need automated ways to do your validations. Testim supports a variety of different validations: custom validation, CLI validation, download file or email, validate whether an element is visible, not visible, text on an element, checkbox, radio buttons. Testim also supports API, so you can do validate API as well as any pixel level validation. Then Testim supports group. Any automated test, you want to make it reusable. So you want to make some of the steps that is being reused again and again as reusable modules. And what we call them in Testim is called group. So you can select the steps that you want to make it a group, and then you can then have a group that makes it easier to walk through the tests for clarity. It helps you reuse some functionality that you want to use again and again across multiple tests, like login. You will have to log in no matter what test you do in your application. So you record it once, create a group, run and create a shared group, and then you can reuse it across other tests. It also helps you debug. If this particular group is used across 10 different tests and 10 different tests fails, you only have to fix the issue that if it is in this group in one place, and then that fixes all the 10 tests. Testing provides you to incorporate conditions. So when you want to run a step or a group, you can say always run it or never run it, like I commented out, or when an element is visible, or when an element text is visible, or you can have a custom configuration as well. That's basically coding if you want to do that. Testing supports loops, so you can have for loops, while loops, for each loops, and customs iterations. So when you have multiple sets of data and you want to repeat same set of actions over multiple sets of data, then you can use loops. Say, for example, you want to log in as multiple different users who represent different roles, then you can use repeat groups. Testing provides synchronization. Why do you need synchronization? The reason is sometimes your pages may load slowly, but you want to wait for the page to completely load, and then you want to continue with other actions. So for that, Testim allows you wait for type of steps that help you wait for an element, to be visible, or wait for download, or just sleep, which we would not recommend, but there may be situations where you want to use it. And this allows you to synchronize your page so that you can go to the next step without any failures. Testim supports data-driven testing, meaning you can import data and then you can use the data inside your test. We will have Excel and CSV support very soon. But right now, you just have to enter test data in a JSON format in that setup step of the test, and then you can use that across running your tests. Let's see, for example, here what I did, I used username and password as parameters, and then initialize them with some data, and now I can use them in the username step in a recording, and we will see this. We will walk through this in our exercises. Testim supports a variety of different actions. Each of these steps that you see here can be an action, it can be a mouse click, it can be a keystroke. But in addition to that, we also support hover actions, extracting value from a step, from an element in the web page, generate email address. You can go to a website, you can have a custom action. So for those of you who are familiar with coding and would like to incorporate code into your test, we provide this custom action step that allows you to write JavaScript code that can be incorporated as a part of your test. Or if you want to run some code in the server side, like Node.js, you can have that as a part of a CLI action. If you want to do some operating system level stuff on the back end, then you can use CLI action. You can also call APIs. We support REST APIs, all different operations on the API. We support JSON, text, HTML as body, and then you can random value. So here is a quick example of JavaScript custom action, and then a Node.js CLI action, a quick sample on that. This is, of course, not the complete code. And then you can call APIs. You can have a REST API, you can specify URL, and then with a body, you can invoke the test, and you can also validate it. When the response comes back, you can extract data from the response and use it for your test, or you can validate it, make sure that API action was successful, and things like that. So Testim provides a variety of different integrations. We integrate with Jira, Trello, Slack, or GitHub for bug tracking. We also integrate with GitHub for version control, branching, and with TestRail for test management. And then we integrate with Applitools for pixel level validation. We provide email service, which means many times you have application, you want to use email to sign up, and then make sure that the email that is being sent is valid. So Testim provides email service with some random emails, but it still works. You can go and check the email. You can validate the email against content, against subject, to make sure that your email communications are tested successfully. Testim can execute tests either locally. So when you're developing a test, you would then run the test from the browser. But if you want to run the test in kind of testing on a regular basis, you run the test in a remote grid. Testim offers a Testim grid, which is basically a Selenium grid. and we provide support for multiple different browsers. We also support Selenium Grid, so if you want to host a test in your environment, then we support that. And then we also support custom grids like BrowserStack and so on. Test management. So testing does test management through projects where you can have multiple projects, you can have tests inside the project. Inside a project, you can then have a test list where you can organize your test. These are development time. So these are basically when you develop your test, this is how you would categorize your test. You will have a project. Under a project, you will have multiple tests. But at runtime, you can have groups of tests configured as suites. Test suites where you can have a suite which can incorporate multiple different tests. You can also have test plans, which of course, suite here, I'm just showing a screenshot here. You can have one or more tests here. And then for test plans, very similar to test suite, but with test plans, you have the ability to run certain tests before to set up your environment. Then you run your tests that you want to run and then tear down test at the end. So whatever you want to run afterwards, these are possible. Testing also allows you to create labels and associate labels with your tests. And then you can run all tests belonging to a label if you would like to do so. So here are a couple of labels, regression and RU system test. And these can be tagged with tests that you may have. And then when you can then run tests that are all regression or are system tests and things like that. So test execution. What you see here, the screenshot is from the test editor. From the test editor, you can set up your execution mode to incognito mode. This is what I would recommend for your exercises. So you check mark here, and then you can run your test locally from the browser. This is when you're doing your testing and development, you would do that of your automated test. You can also debug. You can run step by step if you want, or you can run the test on a grid from your browser. Here in the grid, you can select the grid that you want to run: Sauce Labs, BrowserStack, Testim Grid, Custom Grid, and so on. Testim also allows you to execute tests using CLI. What you see here is a CLI that you may use to integrate with your CI systems like Jenkins or TeamCity, CircleCI. Testim allows you to schedule test runs. So whenever you want to run a test at midnight or maybe after every certain hours, you would schedule a test run and then you can tell which test suites or plans that you want to execute there. Testim supports configuration, so you can have a default configuration. Configuration will specify what OS you want to run, what browser you want to run, what resolution you want to run the test, and you can create your own custom configuration. And you can also have multiple parallel runs, so you can specify with how concurrency and things like that. You can customize configurations through configuration list. This is what I mentioned earlier. You can have different operating systems, different resolution, different browsers. And you can also set step timeout and step delay. Step timeout is basically when it times out, and then step delay is the delay between two steps. We support a variety of different levels at the corporate level, as well as at the project level. And you can also look into kind of exporting a test. On the right-hand side, you would see a small little arrow button that allows you to export your test into Excel spreadsheet, test results into Excel spreadsheets. And then we also provide reporting on where can you improve some of the tests that you may execute, which may have failed so many times. And then Testim will suggest what are the top tests that you're breaking, why they may be breaking, what you can improve upon. Testim also exports test results using XML, using JUnit type capability. And this is possible when you're running the test using CLI. And Testim allows you to send email reports on a weekly basis as well around how your tests are running. Finally, around debugging, Testim supports screenshots where you can look into the baseline screenshot and the last run screenshot, so they can compare the two and see what went wrong. This kind of helps you with debugging. Testim also allows you to capture bugs and report. This is kind of advanced feature unique to Testim that allows you to take videos of steps that you may execute and then put some documentation around it, and then finally create a ticket in Trello or Jira and things like that. Testim supports version control, so you can see old revisions on the bottom right corner that you see here, where it will show you who changed what test, and then you can then fork your test and then merge your test. Those are also possible for your test when multiple people are using the test. So from a dynamic locator point of view, Testim uses multiple different attributes to identify an element in your web page. So if somebody changes the class ID or name or text, Testim then relies on all the other attributes associated with that element to locate and identify the element and execute the test successfully. And this is what we call dynamic locators. It uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to learn from previous test runs using Testim, and then successfully execute future test runs even when certain things have changed. Here is a quick look at Testim's architecture. On the top, you see the Testim SaaS Bat production. This is running on Amazon, and this is what you use to author your test. And then when you are using Testim Grid, of course, we support other grids, but when you're using Testim Grid, that is another platform in the cloud on Amazon that you can request your test to be originated, and it will send your request to your application under test, which can be on-prem or it can be in the cloud. If you have any questions on that slide, let me know later on. I can cover that. Here is a quick comparison between some of the benefits between Selenium, benefits of Testim over Selenium. I will not go through it. You can read through it. I'll share the slides later on. If you have any questions, let me know. Some of the best practices. So where do you start? You pick with tests that are hurting you most, which are the biggest challenges, either from a cost perspective, from a time to market perspective, or from a quality perspective, and then pick that test, and then that's how you would prioritize and then start automating that test. You want to recycle, reuse. So recycling is about when you have automation test, you need to constantly monitor and make sure that it's adding value. If not, then you don't use it. That's how you reduce it. Reduce your test through reusability by creating modules and creating structured tests. You have short tests, not necessarily being long 500-step test that makes it difficult to navigate through it, to debug, and also takes a lot of time. So write short tests that helps you. Write independent tests so that they can be executed in parallel, and then compose complex tests from simple steps. Now this is where you can use the grouping capability of Testim. Test initial state should also be consistent. So if you're starting your test using login, you should always have your state of the browser as logged out so that you can run your test successfully. Typically, it's not a good idea to use sleep, but use wait for other similar mechanisms for synchronization and stability. Use abstractions. Again, the modularity capability around grouping can help. Add validations at turnover points. So whenever you are automating your test inside a group, you should add validations before you move on to the next step. Reduce the occurrence of conditions. This makes it more efficient. Have setup and tear down steps. This is using test plan in Testim. Divide and conquer. If you have a complex task, let's start with a small piece first, as we will do in our labs. We will do login, log out, and then we will do another scenario after that. Use data-driven tests for repeated tests. Instead of hard coding your data inside your test, use test data which can be reusable, which can be changed, modified in runtime, and then use test design patterns and principles. If you need kind of more information on it, I can definitely walk through this, but there are definitely a number of different test design patterns available. You can do some Google search. It can help you kind of understand some of it. And use a tables test environment. So the test environment that you're using is very important. Why is this? Because you're trying to run automated test. You don't want the test to fail, but when it fails, it should not be because of the test environment. It should be maybe because the test is not written correctly. That way you can focus on the areas that is causing the issues and then fix it, rather than trying to find the issue across multiple different variables. So create automated tests that are resistant to small changes in UI. This is where the AI dynamic locator of Testim can help. Name your test wisely. so that it becomes easier to relate your test with your user story, with your source code. Finally, take screenshots for failing investigation. Testim Mode does that automatically for you. Set up detailed automation test reporting. Again, Testim does that for you. And again, do not just rely on UI test. You need to do API test. You need to do unit test. So those are some of the things that would help you improve quality of your application. Kind of keep in mind when you're writing your automated tests. So next, into exercises. So what are some of the preparation steps? So Chrome browser is what Testim uses for authoring test. You need to have Testim Chrome plugin installation installed successfully. And you can go there and search for Chrome plugin if you haven't, and then install it. Turn off pop-up blocker, because this is needed for your Fortress application. That's the application that we would use for today's test. Turn on incognito mode in Testim. We'll walk you through the step. And then for students who are attendees of this, use the ID. I've given the IDs here. Use the ID to replace question mark while naming your tests and groups. So, I mean, just keep in mind what your number would be, and so that you can use that to replace question mark when I come up with a naming convention. I'll talk about it in the next slide. We will have a couple of labs. One is log in and log out, and the second one would be add a prospect in your Fortress application. So the steps: install Chrome browser if you don't have any, and then install Testim Chrome browser plugin. Turn off pop-up blocker. This is the instruction. Kind of, if you haven't done it, you can do a quick screenshot of this and then use that when you're making the change. Enable browser incognito mode. I'll show you how to do that. And do not save passwords in browser cache. So if your browser says save password when you log in as a user, then just do never on that one. This is the first lab. This is what we will do: log in and log out. What are the things that we will do? We will create a test using recording. We will add validation. Validate the element is visible. And record from here. We'll record a logout scenario after we have recorded the login scenario. And we'll do this with the existing test. We will create a couple of groups: login group and logout group. We'll add a condition, logout if you're already logged in, and then we'll do some data-driven testing, execute test locally from the editor test list. And then here are some of the steps. Again, take a screenshot of this if you would like to, and then you can refer back to this screenshot when you're running through the test. So these are the steps for the first lab. The test name should be AA-S !T1.login, and the question mark is your kind of ID number that I specified here. How do you go to Testim? You go to Testim using testim.io. And yes.
Could you go back to the list of IDs?
Sure.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then if you need it later on, also we can go back there. So Testim, you go to testim.io to kind of log in. I'm assuming you've already got your email ID to log in. And then we'll create a new test, and I'll walk you through this. This is the base URL. You'll use the username Fernando1 ! to log into your application, and add a validation step, add a shared step, and run the test, and then record additional action, and then create a group for logout, and so on. So these are some of the steps, and we will refer to this when we run it. So with that, I want to pause and see if you have any questions, and I'm talking to the team who are attending before we start the labs. Nope, no questions. So let's go to the labs and go here. Let me log out. So in order to go to Testim, you go to testim.io. So I would like everybody to go ahead and do this on your computers, and just to let me know if you haven't done the step so that we can guide you through. Maybe you share your screen and we can then quickly go through this. So we have around 40 minutes, I believe. And we'll try to finish a couple of labs within that amount of time. So for this one, I want to spend maybe no more than 15 minutes, if that works with everybody. So I want everybody to go to testim.io and let me know if you don't have your Chrome plugin installed. So Chrome plugin, if you have it installed, it will show you as the M icon on the top right-hand corner.
Would that be the Testim editor?
That will be the Testim editor. So
All right.
My Chrome browser has a black Chrome around it, so the icon just looks like a check mark.
yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Is everybody okay with that? Let's see. Let me see if I can use the chat. Yeah, can you send me a yes on chat? Excellent. Okay, so anybody don't have it installed? Okay, great. Looks like everybody, I'm not counting here, but I'm assuming everybody has done it. So once you do that, let's log in. So let's log into the web page, and you would log in using your credentials here. I'll kind of use my Google credentials to log in. And so when I do that, of course, you don't see this. You would go to your, let me show you where you would go. And you'll go to something like this, someplace here, test list. Okay, Fernando is downloading. So let's, I think it shouldn't take much time. So once it gets installed, you can get started. Done, excellent. So once you are in the test list, what I would like you to do is you create a new test. And every test has a setup step, initialization step, and each step also has properties. When you click on the gear button, it will show you properties, and on the properties, then you specify the URL of your application of the test. This is the base URL. And where do you get the base URL? The base URL is specified in, I specified in my presentation.
I just shared it with the team in our chat.
Excellent, excellent, that's great. So the base URL will be this one. Let's see here.
By the way, since we are limited to how many projects we're going to use, I think the base URL is based on the project. Is that right?
The base URL is
the base URL that comes as when you create a new test.
Yeah, so the base URL is, you can tie it with the project, but I mean, you can have different tests. You just have to modify it here. Yeah, that's fine. You can have any.
That's why I set Google as the default. That way, every time we're forced to change it.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So you just have the URL here, and then you name your test. The naming of the test should be like AA dash I will student and ID. Maybe I will say maybe 12, since there is no 12, and then maybe your test 1 and login. So something like this. Again, this naming convention is something that I came up with to kind of manage all the different students, but you can have your own naming convention that is appropriate for your organization. And once you have done this, I would like you to save it, and you can add your own comment here. So once you do this, I would like to see all those tests saved here for people who have who are attending the session. I should be able to see all the other tests saved here. Okay, I don't have one yet. There you go. I have 10 SRD.
I used that one because I didn't have like a code for myself.
Oh, you didn't have a
on
code.
this.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. As long as it's different, that should be good.
Yeah.
What about others? Okay, great. So looks like we have you now. So let me go back to my test and let me start doing the next steps. So now what we have the test created, and my test was 12.
I think yours was the AA-I or something like that. Oh yeah,
Yeah, that is the solution, but I created one with the 12 just now. So once you have your test and you have saved it, let's go ahead and record it. So we will use the red button here to do the recording, and here it will tell you that we are now recording your test. Start when you're ready. You can close this notification, or if you want to, it's not needed. But then you specify your username. The username is Fernando with the uppercase F, F-E-R-N-A-N-D-O. And the password is Fernando, 1 exclamation mark, I believe. And then you sign in. So that will take you to the application. As you can see, it tells me say password. I say no, because I don't want to say password, and it brings you to this application. Send me a yes on chat when you have done this. And once you have done this, then you go and go to your application, and you click on this red toggle button, toggle recording, and then stop your recording. So that's basically the first step. So let me know when you're done with this. I see 5 yes. Anybody else still struggling to do that? Need some help? Have any questions?
I use a wrong password in my first login, and the system captured all those steps. Should I delete the ones that I don't need?
Yes, go ahead and delete the ones. I would say go ahead and delete everything, and not the setup step. Keep the setup step. So first of all, you stop your recording and delete everything but the setup step, and then redo the recording. So that's how you know.
One thing that I've found when I'm working in these is I can actually select everything, including the setup step. And when I try to delete, it actually leaves the setup step intact.
Yeah, excellent.
So that's nice. Because sometimes when you have several rows of tests, it's nice to be able to draw a box around all of them instead of having to do separate boxes.
Exactly. Yep. So let's go back to the test and let's see what we can do here. So I have my step. These are my steps that I've recorded, and I'm ready to run it. But what I would like to do, I would like to add validation. So with every test, you need to have validation to make sure that your test executed successfully. Or if it did not, then you want the test to fail. And how do you do that? Using validation. You can add validation, and this is the thing that you have to do. You click on the plus menu. This is also called the step menu. This menu is available after each step. You click on the second and the checkbox here, the check circle, not a box. And under validations, you would see validate element visible. So I want you to click on validate element visible. And when you do that, it takes you back to your application under test. When you log in, it shows you this page. And under this page, you would see there is Fernando Zuniga name here, but you may be logging in somebody else. But this image here, this little human head, is common to anybody. So you just go there and then click on that image. What it'll do, it will then take you, create an additional validation step for your test, and that's what you see here, validate element visible, and this step was added for validating that you have logged in successfully.
And we're, just to be clear, we're selecting that little image because that's one way to verify that we have been logged in. And if we're not logged in, we should not see that.
Exactly. And again, different applications would have different ways of validating. Sometimes it says welcome somebody, then you can just validate in the welcome message, not the name, and so on.
Can you explain a little bit more why we wouldn't want to select the name?
Because if I log in as myself, my name will show up there and then it'll fail, even though I logged in successfully, right?
That's probably even more useful when if we were to do data-driven tests for with a different username and password.
Yes.
Because when you wanted to use data-driven test, that name is going to be different every time. But if you're always going to use Fernando and his password, it's always going to say that Fernando.
Exactly.
So I guess if you never use data-driven testing, it's probably okay to select his name. But if you're hoping to use data-driven testing, you'd want to select something else. Is that right?
That's right. You can select the name, but then now the name would be from the data that you're using for testing, right? So
right.
The username that you use for login or whatever that is from your data should be same as the name that is shown up there. So you can do multiple validation, not only that it's logged in, but also this person's name is also showing up in the screen.
That's a good point.
So I've added validation. And the next thing that we can do is we can now select these steps. And so you can see my steps for login, not the setup step, have been selected. And I can go to my step menu back and add a new group to create a new group. So when all of you are ready, maybe I'll give you a minute to get this. Maybe a few seconds, not a minute. And then you add a new group. You can specify your group name. So I can say AA, and then I can say student, your ID, and this is my group 1, so it's my G1, and then login group. And I make this as a shared group, which is the default behavior, and I confirm. So this will create a group to modularize your test, and then you can see that now you have a group with a name, and if you double click on the group, it shows you the steps that you recorded earlier. So give me a yes on chat when you're finished doing that, or group done.
Dr. Tree, Dana over here, I have like a warning when I run the test. So I'm reaching to you if you can help me.
Sure. So I'm not running the test yet. I just created a group. So I will definitely check on it. Have you been able to create the group?
I guess I was left behind.
Okay, no problem. So let's do this.
Okay.
Have you been able to record the steps for login?
I guess there was a warning. Let me show you.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
Share your screen. I mean, I'm stop sharing, and you can show me your screen.
Wait a minute, please. Let me know if you see.
Yep.
You looked over?
Yes, I can see it. And
yes.
Yeah, and that warning, what it says is that you're trying to run a test with a resolution that is different from the resolution that you that was specified by default. So right now you haven't even recorded anything, so so there's no point running anything at this point. So what I would do, I mean, this is something that you don't worry. It's a warning. What I would like you to do is go ahead and record the test. So you click on the red button. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Go ahead. Click on that. And okay, so you have a different monitor. I'm assuming you're.
Okay, let me wait.
Okay, let's do this. I think let's go ahead and delete the steps that you created there.
Okay, do you see my screen or not?
Yes, I do. So what I would like you to do, I would like to log out from that screen and close that screen.
Okay.
Oh, but not that one.
No, right?
The Fortress app.
Yes, this one, right?
Yeah, log out. Yep. And I want you to close it.
Yes.
Close the browser. Great. So now what I want you to do, you want to delete all these steps here. And
All of them.
Yeah, you can just select all of them. Except the setup. Yeah, there you go. And then you see that delete recycle. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And okay. Okay, great. Now what I want you to do, I want you to record the test. So click on the red button.
Yes.
And go ahead and
See how it's got, she's already logged in.
So what I want you to do here is
maybe
no.
needs to use
Not
incognito
you,
or
change
something.
user.
Yeah, not you. And yeah, give your name, Fernando, 1 exclamation mark, sign in. That's it. Good.
Perfect.
In here. Now go back to the test.
Yes.
So the not you would not show up next time. And this is where I want you to go and delete that step. Yep.
Thank you.
Good. So I can stop the recording using the
over here.
Yes. And you stopped it. You can save this test using the button on the right. Yep. Okay. Now what you can do, you can add a validation. Let's add a validation and then we'll try to run it. So the way you would add a validation is using a step menu. So this is the plus menu below after the last step, after sign in.
After
sign in. So you see the blocks, the rectangular box, these are the steps of the test.
Yes.
And the last step is, well, yeah, there you go. And next to that, you see the plus menu, the plus sign.
I do.
That's the plus menu. Click on validations, which is the check mark on the, after all. There is, yeah, validations, click on that. And then select validate element visible to make sure that element is visible. It will take you to application or test and go and click on that head next to Fernando, right? Not there, below, after.
Over here?
No, just above, next to Fernando, there is an image, the avatar of Fernando. Yeah, yes, click on that. And this will add a validation step for you in the test. So if you can go back to your test.
Okay.
And see that additional step there?
Yes, it does.
Exactly. And that's basically showing that you're validating that you have logged in successfully. And so now if you log in as yourself, it'll show that, that image. And so you can validate it. Now select the steps that you just created using recording.
Oh, wait.
There's one. You can remove the properties window.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. It'll become easier for you. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. Now you click on the plus menu again because you want to create a group.
I guess I'm missing the first one.
Don't worry the first one. You don't need the first one.
Add new group?
Yes, exactly. And you AA-S your number, which is 20.
Yes, 520.
No, not 520, just 20. I think S20. Since you had 520, make it 520.
Yes.
I was dash G1, because this is a group. G as in George, yeah, 1, and then dash login. Yes, dash login. Good. That's how you would create a group. And now we are at the point. I'm assuming everybody else is at this point. So if you want to save this test, and all of you can save this test, and yep, and this should run. But what I want to do, I don't want to run the test yet. I want to. So this is where you have it's a small section of what you want to do. Now you want to also record log out. So what I would like to do, go to plus menu again.
Yeah.
And this is for everybody. Record action here. And then you can now record any scenario that you want to. What I would like you to do, I can close this. Click on that down arrow after Fernando on your application under. Down arrow on Fernando, and then log out. Good. Yes. Excellent. That's it. Go back to your test and then stop the recording. So that's how you would extend your test. So if you write a test and you want to extend it, you can then you have to have your application under test to a point where it makes sense to extend. So in this case, since I've already logged in, I'm able to log out. If you are not logged in, what will happen? If I'm trying to record a logout scenario, then you have to log in again and then log out, and that will again delete steps. So it's always better to play the test to the point where you want to add additional scenarios, and then record from there to add those additional scenarios. So give me a yes, everybody else, if you have done this. And then what next step would be to create a logout group. So can you create a logout group?
Yes.
How do you do that? There you go, you know it.
Oh, wait.
You select the steps that you want to be part of the logout.
Yes.
And then create a group, add group, and you create a logout group. G2, it will be your second group.
Yes, it is.
And then log out.
Okay.
Is everybody good? I see 6 there. Okay, excellent. So what I would like to do next is that in order to make sure that your test is at a point where you are actually ready to run login, you need to log out if you have already logged in. And how do you do that? Let's just reuse the step that we have created for logout. How do you reuse a shared step? No, you don't have to do that. Just before login, you want to make sure that you have already logged out. What would you do? You would log out if you're already logged in, right? How do you do that? So go to the step menu before your login group.
Over here?
Step menu. So that will be, if you click on that arrow next to that step. Yes, there you go. There you go, the plus menu. And then click on that. Go to the group folder. If you see the folder icon, click on that. Now you see all the groups that were created for logout. Okay, I only see 2 logout groups. So there may be somebody who hasn't done it yet. So pick your logout group. Which one will be your logout group?
She's not seeing the one that I created.
Okay, there you go. Maybe I need to do a refresh, then it'll show up. So yeah, select that one. Yeah, logout.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you have a logout group step before you log in. But you don't want to log out if you are not logged in. So how do you do that? How do you know that to check for whether or not you're logged in and then log out if you have logged in? How do you do that?
Have a login group as well?
No. So let's go to my application under test.
Over here?
No, your application. So the Fortress application.
Oh, okay, yes.
And just log in manually. Fernando, and then Fernando 1 exclamation mark. And this again, these steps are for everybody. Please go, everybody repeat these steps. So what is, your application is now logged in, and you want to make sure that your application, if it is logged in, you log out first before you do login. So let's go back to my application under test. Sorry, my test, yeah. And you would set up a condition here to log out when you are logged in. So right now, in your application, you're logged in. You want to make sure that you're, if you're logged in, then you log out before you proceed to the next steps. If you select the, if you click on the properties for your logout step, the second step.
Or the first one?
Yes, yes, that's right. Click on the properties. And if you go below there, you see that when to run the steps. Right now, you set it up to run it all the time. Instead, I want to run the step just when you're logged in. So how do you do that? Click on the element.
Element?
Yes. This is how, now you can pick an element to show that you're logged in. How do you, which element would you pick? It can go and select the same avatar, right?
This one.
Yes, and this will make sure that if you're logged in, then it'll execute the logout. So this is how. Cool. This is how you would incorporate conditions in your application. So you see the diamond on the left of logout, the first logout, that shows that this is conditional statement. So let's now, has everybody finished up to this point? Okay, let's see, 4, 5, excellent. Great, now save your test and now we will run the test. Save your test.
Is it necessary to put a message over here when saving?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you want to, it's optional. It gives some documentation, what changes you made. So let's do it. Okay, and then save it. And you can maybe remove the properties bar on the right. That's what you see. Okay, how did the condition on the last one show? But that's fine. That's okay. So you can run the test now. How do you run the test? You can run the test using,
place scenario.
Yep. So you logged in, so it's logging you out, and then it's ready to run the test, and it'll log in. And it will also log you out. A simple scenario how to kind of incorporate login, logout. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Has everybody able to execute this successfully?
I wanted to add the validation.
You have, okay. Can you share your screen?
Yes, let me left mine.
It was fun letting Diana be the guinea pig.
No, but was that okay, Diana?
Yes, I just have one question because on the test, my Testim editor, I don't know if you saw at last that I had a warning message again.
Yeah, that warning is okay, and I'll explain to you. Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's basically when it does a recording, it uses your screen size, and then when it plays back, it adds a little additional bar on the top, and then that makes the browser window, the viewport, become smaller, and that's why it's saying. But that's okay. As you start using it, I will, and if you decide to go with, I mean, if you decide to go with Testim, then I'll explain how that works. How it will not happen in the grid. Okay. So now, no problem.
Can Diana assist me showing her?
I can see you, so I can see your image.
I'm using my iPad and for the video, so
I can assist you as your teammate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you see?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay.
Okay, so what was the question around validation?
Yep. How to add the diamond?
Oh, how to add the diamond. So diamond is basically a condition. Like in any flow chart, what would you have? You would have a rectangle and you have diamond when you're trying to make a condition, if true, false, things like that. The way you do that is going to the properties of the step. In this case, the step, it's a group. So it is also applicable for the group. So you go to the properties, and then you see there on the right, you see when to run step, and you would go to that, and then you click on that element, and then when you click on the element, it will take you to your application under test, and then you'll pick the
avatar or the section
that you want to use to make sure that you are logged in, and when you're logged in, then you log out.
Okay, thanks.
But we can't, like, to show Fernando, we can't undone this side of element and we can redo it again?
Yeah, we can. Say always run. Click on always run. This is how it was default. So now it will run always.
Yes.
And now, since your application is already logged out, you will not be able to show it. So you have to go to your application under test and log in.
Right now?
Yeah. Can you log in to your application and then show that I'm not seeing the Fortress
You're
application.
not seeing.
No.
Okay, let me show you. Now?
Yes, I'm seeing that up now. Now you sign in. Yeah, log in. So now go back to your test and say element, and it'll take you to, and you select the avatar and you go back to your test and you see the diamond there.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. So what we just did, we just did conditions, validations, grouping. There is one additional thing I want you to do, and that is data-driven testing. How do you incorporate test data into your test? And the way you do that is using the test data part of your setup step. So if you go to the properties of your setup step, yes, and if you go to the test data section at the bottom, you go below, set dynamic test data, and this is where you would specify your test data. It is specified in JSON format. I know this may be a little bit too geeky if you're not familiar with it, but we will have an ability to import Excel data or CSV data that will import the data in the JSON format for you, so you don't have to do it manually. But for now, what I would like you to do, I would like you to go to my, maybe I'll...
To the chat?
Yeah, let me see.
You can copy and paste.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I will do that. Where's my... I'll copy and paste that portion.
I already copied it on the chat for you, Diana, and for everyone else.
Okay, on Slack.
No, Zoom chat.
Okay.
Yeah, there you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you, Fernando. Carlos, yeah, thank you, Carlos. So yeah, you do that, and this what will this will do? It'll create two parameters for you. One is username, another is password, and the username will have Fernando, and the password will be Fernando1. And so from now on, it will use this data. But there is one more thing that we have to do. And Diana, can you tell me what you have to change?
I guess, okay, the username and password are okay, right?
Yeah, these are okay. These are good. So, okay, let's go back.
Return or
yeah, let's go back. So we used it hard-coded data when we were running the test because that's the recorded data. So if you go to login group, your login group.
Login group.
Double click on that. Yep. Okay. And so under set username and set password steps, there are two steps: set username, set number 2, and then step number 4, set password. What we have done here, we are using the data that we typed in, right? But instead of that, we want to use the data that was provided in the variable. I mean, they are both very same value. In order to use the parameter instead of hard-coded value, I would say click on the properties for step number 2. And you see the text to assign, go up a little bit. Text to assign, it is hard-coded Fernando under quotes. Instead of that, I want you to change it to username without quotes.
Underscore? Sorry, lowercase?
Yeah, because that's how you defined it.
Based on the text, right?
Based on the parameter name that we defined in the test data. So this is good. And the same thing you have to do for step number 4 and specify password.
That is too cool.
And then save it. Great. And that's how you would use data-driven testing for your test.
Back, right?
Yes. So this is how you do it. Now, what I want you to do, did everybody save the test? Give me a yes. I know we're kind of running out a little time here, but I think this was good. Everybody kind of walking through the process.
Yes, but can you show me where to paste the data, the return username, password?
Sure. Diana knows. Yeah, go to the properties for your setup step. The
Over
setup
here.
step is the initialization. Another test data below. You can see edit, go to edit, set dynamic data, edit, and this is where you will do it.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
So if we want to have more than one login, we would treat this like a regular JavaScript array,
Yes.
and we would add another curly braces, another user, set of
Sure.
username and password.
Exactly. And what happens when you run the test locally from your browser, it will use the first data only. But when you run it in the grid, it will run the test for all of those users in parallel in the grid. So that's the big benefit of it. Okay, so we have created a first test and we have 15 minutes left. Let's try to see how much we can achieve on the second one. And the second one, if I can share my screen.
Yes, you do.
Okay, great. Let's see here. The second lab is this. So what I'm doing here is we'll just add a prospect. Okay, so we'll create a new test. For the sake of time, I know we will run out of time, so I'm kind of doing some shortcuts. We'll create a copy of the test that we just created, and then we'll record the add prospect scenario, right? And then we'll run it, and then we'll review reports and debug if we have the time. Now, again, it may need more time, but I want all of you to get started. And then if you have any issues, just feel free to reach out to me later on, and I'll walk you through the process. Okay.
Really sorry to interrupt real quick. I'm wondering if we could set up a Slack channel if you guys use Slack for
Yeah. Yeah, we totally use Slack.
Okay. Would you be open for me to send you guys an invite?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So, Diane, would you like to drive the second test case, and I'll walk you through the process?
Sure do. Let me share.
Sure.
Do you see?
Yes, I see it. So, yeah, what I would like everybody to do, go to your test list. And this, what you're here is, this is the test editor. The test list is on the left. It's the second one. Yes, automate. That's the test list. Click on that. And over here, you have all of your tests. So then I want you to click your test that you have.
This one.
Which is yes, and create a copy of it. And you create copy using the first icon. First one, yes, create test.
Clone test.
Clone test, yes. And and then kind of name it as test number 2. So no, we keep the original name. So AA dash
yes,
remove
T2.
the copy of T2, and then make it add prospect. T2, and then instead of login, no, not yet. Instead of login, make it add prospect.
Is it okay?
And this again, yeah, these steps are for everybody. So I'm hoping that everybody can repeat these steps. Let's do okay. Let's double click on or click on that test, add prospect. It'll take that back into editor. So now you have a test that you have kind of copied and pasted so that you can reuse all the data-driven, the conditions and all of that stuff. But you want to add your add prospect scenario into the test. So what I would like you to do is create a breakpoint, and the breakpoint should be after login, before logout. Yes, breakpoint is the one above it. So
okay, sorry.
yes, not that one. Let's play. This is the toggle breakpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Did everybody get to this point? Yes, I see 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. So now I want you to play the test, which will play the test up to this breakpoint. And you use the play button on the top next to the red record button. Yeah. So it will play your test up to this point, just like any other source code editor, if you're familiar with and it will log out, it will log back in, and it will test rest a breakpoint. You go back to the editor. Maybe you can stop the test. How do you stop the test? You can do it
here?
No.
Or here.
The next square button.
Yes, sorry.
Yes. Stop the test. So this will stop the test. I mean, it says stop test failed because it stopped, but I mean, at this point, that doesn't matter. What I would like you to do, click on the plus button after login. So you want to record certain things after you logged in. So click on that and record steps from here, record action here. Good. Excellent. So now your application is ready to do some additional recording, and your test is also waiting for you to do certain things. But what you would like to do here is add a prospect. How do you add a prospect? I've done some research on your application. Click Second Street Flats. Pick Second Street Flats. Just the first item on the list and the property. Picks the first property. No, not there. Not there. Okay.
Church?
No. Let's go back. Let's stop it. Let's stop the recording. I know we did certain things that are that I don't want, because it's the sake of time. I don't want to debug much. Okay. Let's stop the test.
Oh wait.
Yes, and delete the additional steps that you added after login. So no, not the logout. In this case, let's delete one by one, not many. So let's delete one by one. Yeah, delete that. Delete this step. And okay, let's go back to your application under test. Make sure it is.
I don't know what's.
Okay, let's do this. Let's run the test again.
Okay, just give me a minute because my Fortress homepage, I don't have it right now.
Okay.
I'll share soon.
Let's run the test up to here again, one more time.
So we're in the breakpoint?
That's fine. Let's run the test. It'll log out and it'll log back in. And you can see how the first logout is going to help out here. It's and there can be a number of different ways to add a prospect, but I just want to follow the way that I did so that at least you have a running test quickly. So you go back to your test and say record from here. You can stop it, yeah, you can stop the test and record from here on the plus menu. No, not there, plus menu, yes, record from here, action here. And then I want you to click on the Second Street Flats, the first item. Yes, that's exactly. Click on that. Now wait, go up. No, not there. The second menu item, vertical menu item on the left. Yes, click on that and then add prospect. Good. Okay, now you type in your information. Whatever mandatory you need to do.
And all this data that we're entering could be data-driven, right?
Yes.
I'm done.
Okay, so now what I did was I canceled it, but if you want to add a prospect, if it is okay for to do that, you can just to add a prospect.
Oh wait, I'm missing
number and date.
Yes.
No moving date.
Thank you, Phil.
No.
There I go.
Okay, so there you go, add a prospect. Let's go back to recording. and stop the recording. Now, this is again for everybody else. What we have done, we ran the test up to a point where it makes sense to create a recording. It is relevant. And then from that point onwards, we then went ahead and added additional steps to enhance the test that you already had to add more capability. Now, when we did that, when we did the recording, we also did certain steps that are not necessary because we maybe mistyped, because we went back and forth and things like that, right? And this is the first time you're doing it, so it's perfectly fine, not an issue. But ideally, you'd like to have the minimum number of steps for your test.
Like mouse wheel or scroll to element?
Scroll to element you may require, but mouse will probably not require. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and save the test.
Yes.
And let's try to run it and see what happens. Byron, do we have a hard stop at 15 past hour?
Not necessarily. I do, but the rest of the team may be able to stick around. It just depends on their meetings.
Sure.
So if you've got more time to give, then
I have. Not
yeah. So let's just go as long as you can go, and as the team needs to drop off to go to meetings or whatever, then they can drop off. Does that make sense, everybody? Just stick around as long as you can and take advantage of Sujrithi's time.
Yep.
All
clear.
Cool.
Okay. What happened?
It stopped
It
when
stopped.
adding prospect.
Yes, and because this is where it had, you don't have your pop-up turned on, and the way Fortress works, it pops up a new window, which is why you see the cancel, I think in Spanish it must be saying that it's trying to start a new. So you have to enable pop-ups, and then when you do that, it will go ahead and have the pop-up, and then it'll show you through that process. So what I would like you to do, enable pop-up, your permit, but you may have to close your browser instances and then do so. Close all the browser instances, and even this, including this.
Including this homepage?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Let me close every window because I do have my email and that account. So.
Okay. That should do it. If it doesn't, then we will have to use the instruction that I put in the in my presentation to enable pop-ups for your website.
Okay. Just give me a couple of minutes. So here I am.
Yeah, let's open up.
I open my browser.
Yeah, and let's go to testing. Go to your test, which was add prospect, a 520 T2 add. Yeah, there you go. And try to run it. I thought you saved it, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Let's go to the editor. Yeah, you're in the editor, right? It's okay. Looks like the test was not saved for whatever reason. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and do the recording again. How would you do that? You would go and put a breakpoint after login.
Yes.
And run the test up to this point. Okay, So great. Now you
Now
go
I
back.
stop my recording, right?
Yeah, you don't really have to, but if you want to, you can stop it and then record action from here.
Again, yes.
You go to plus menu and then record action here. Now you go and do second straight flats.
Yes.
But now you know the drill. Can I pause you for a minute?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you look at it, on the top of the browser, you see there is a new tab that opened, because that's how your application behaves. When you try to add a new prospect, it opens a new tab, and now you're entering information in the new tab. So when you run the test, it expects that it will be able to open up a new tab. So unless you have pop-ups enabled for your website, it will not allow you to go through the additional step, which is why the test failed last time. So go ahead, now continue with creating the new prospect.
I'm gonna use my family members' names. There you go.
Excellent. Let's go and stop the test. And save it.
I'm gonna save, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So TestTeam does not have autosave yet, but that's something we will probably have. Maybe I'll request product management to do that. So you have your test written. So let's try to run it and see if that pop-up enabled is enabled now.
I just figured out why Deanna's test didn't save. It did save, but she was editing mine.
Oh.
And so what I've got right now, it's my test just passed because oh, and now we have two tests. But my test just passed because I enabled the pop-ups.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay, so test has reached a breakpoint. And Diana, what you can do, basically your test succeeded. You have to go and remove the breakpoint and then run the test to completion. So go below. It's below, just before logout. There is a breakpoint there, yeah. Toggle the breakpoint, click on it, and then you can run the test from here and then finish it. So either you can use the button on the top, the play button on the top, or the other play button, yeah. In both cases.
Again?
Yeah. Yep, play it. Because it was stopping at a breakpoint, you want to run it to completion, so it'll log out. Okay, so did everybody complete this?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is good. And this is basically what I was hoping to achieve. This, and then in addition to a few other things. So we were able to run the test locally on the browser. Let's run it from the test list. How do you run it from the test list? Let's go to the test list, which is the automate button on the left, and pick out tests that you have done. Yeah, add prospect. Click on the checkbox on the left. No, not that one.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, and then you see the play button on the top right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, play that. When you run the test here, this is also running the test locally, but you will be able to see reports, okay?
So I click to OK.
Okay, yes. Click OK. Now, the test may fail because it will use the same name to create a new prospect. I don't know how your application is created. Most likely it will not fail because it did run success. Oh, great. So it created another. So now if you go to the runs, you see that there are some reports. So if you go to, these are some of the reports, the local suite that you created, or somebody is still running. One of the tests at the beginning failed, and then additional test running. So it says local suite because it is running a test from the test list. And if you click on the local suite, it'll tell you which test. If you just click on it. Yeah, click on it. It'll tell you, okay, that was the test that is running, and so on. If you click on that, it'll give you the state of that test. So that's basically what I wanted to cover as part of this training. It was very, very basic. Does anyone have any questions? Are you still not able to run the test? I want everybody to successfully complete these 2 tests. If you have any challenges, please share your screen, let me know, and I'll walk you through the steps.
Yeah, it runs for me, but I have a question.
Sure.
If you see, when you select Second Street Flats and the overview window, is there a way to randomly click another name on the table?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to, when you're running it or when you're recording it?
When I'm recording it, I think both. Is there a way?
When you're recording it, yes, of course you can. Now, when you are playing it back, you have to use a little bit of programmatic. Okay, click on the second or third, not random as a whole. You can also do random, where you will generate a random number between 1 to 5, and then pick a number between 1 to 5, and then it will go ahead and do for that property.
Yeah, I'm asking that because on Selenium, you can code it, the random number of the table.
Yeah.
And then you can build the XPath.
Yes.
Where you're gonna click.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. So Test Team also allows you to code in JavaScript. And so when you have access to JavaScript, you know that you can have access to random numbers, and then you can pick a third element or second element, whatever, and then you can go from there.
Okay, and another question is that if you see after adding the prospect, you have this green label.
Yes.
At the top right of the window.
The top right, yeah.
But it disappears like 5 seconds. I don't know. We can check that also.
You can check that using validation, right? Okay. So with validation, we support 2 levels of validation. One is at the element level, which means not pixel, non-pixel level. We can check for text that's there. We can check for the element, and if you want exact color and that you want pixel level validation, we do support that too. But we do that through integration with one of our partners, Applitools.
Okay.
But what I would recommend is that see what is out of the box, and if that meets your needs. If it doesn't, then you go for pixel level validation, because pixel level validation is a little more costly in terms of execution time, and it also will require you additional license.
Okay. Other question is we can randomly select drop-down options.
Randomly selecting drop-down options.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it will be similar to that randomly selecting from a list. I haven't done that, but I'm assuming that it will be very similar. I have to play with that, play with the application a little bit, or other similarly implemented application to see if we can do that.
Sorry, I'm asking all this question because I'm having trouble, and it's something that we always tend to do. Always trying to randomly select some items from the table. So the other thing is we can enter random dates. I'm just going back to the Add New Prospect page. If you see, you need to enter a date, you need to enter a range of dates. You need to enter a range of numbers, select randomly drop-downs. We want to test all of that.
Yes, you can generate random dates in the future. Of course, it will not be random. It will be something like, okay, you want a month from now, or you want a random number of days from now. So today's date, whatever, 6th of August, you want a random number of days, maybe 10 days or 12 days or 20 days or 60 days, whatever. You can come up with a number, and then you can come up with a date. Remember, we use parameters. We use parameters for username and password. In the same fashion, you can use parameters for dates, and then you can have different parameters for different types of dates. You can populate them in a custom step, in a custom action step, which is basically a custom step is nothing but your ability to run code. And when you run the code, it will populate those parameters. And now you can use those parameters in your test, in your group, or if you, we haven't shown you, you can group your test as test suites or test plans. You can also use those parameters across other tests that are running as a part of the test suite.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, not for me. Now that you explained to us, I'm gonna start playing with it.
Oh, absolutely. And if you face any issues, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. My email is my first name @testeam.io. Testeam also provides you a chat capability. So on the bottom right corner of the Testeam application, you would see a little kind of image of where you can click, and then the blue image and the conversation, and you can get connected to our chat support, who can also help you.
And I got the Slack invitations on the way. We're working on that now.
Excellent.
Our free trial is going to end up in 2 days. Is there a way to extend it? I don't know.
We got to get approval to extend it, but we can talk about that. Okay. There's a few more things you have to verify. What did everyone think? Not too hard to use? Was it a little bit harder than you thought it'd be?
I feel like it's pretty easy once you know where to. I mean, the language. Once you know what each icon does, it's pretty standard. It's easy to use.
Right.
I'm glad you said that. I think it's nice when you all can kind of help each other out with people that know JavaScript a little better than others. Does anyone else have any kind of thoughts or takeaways?
Well, I pretty like very much the tool. It's pretty intuitive, and the recording feature of how it gathers the steps that you're currently doing on the new window on the website that you're testing, that's pretty great, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Well, this was great. Thank you all for kind of paying attention and being open to the idea of trying something new. I think unless anyone has any other questions, we could maybe just continue the conversation on Slack.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you all. I really appreciate you joining this and the training. And Diana, thank you for taking the initiative to kind of walk us through the test. I think it was great. You doing it rather than me doing it. So I really appreciate your help. And if there are any questions, as Graham mentioned, the Slack channel is an additional channel that we opened up for you. Let us know. We want you to be successful. So don't just, if you are stuck with something, we are here to help.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.